Hi, Vincent Hall, and welcome to another episode of our featured artist series. I have a question for you. What does Texas Chili, Milo's Restaurant in McLean, a violin, and a hibiscus have in common? Well, they're all part of our featured artist's life and interests this week, Mrs. Sharon Higgins. Sharon's a newer member to our artistic community in the Art Center, but certainly no newcomer to art itself, as you'll find out in this really interesting and in-depth interview. Without further wait, Mrs. Sharon Higgins. Sharon, I'd like to thank you for being this week's featured artist for the Vincent Hall Art Center. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. The pleasure is all mine. I assure you. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, no, we are so excited to hear more about your whole artistic journey and life experiences. So without further wait, I thought you might share with us more about you.
Well, I guess we should start at the beginning. I was born and raised in Miami, Florida. I am one of those very rare flamingos that was, actually born there. At the time I was growing up, I was surrounded, all my friends, their parents had migrated from up north. I wasn't sure exactly where up north was, but it wasn't there, it wasn't in Miami. And I thought, Cleveland, Ohio, and New York City were the centers of the world. And my first attempt at expressing myself artistically occurred when I was either 3 or 4 years old, and I do remember this. I had taken a green crayon and I had scribbled on my white bedroom wall, and I don't remember what I drew. I just remember that I did it, and that my parents, especially my father, who was going to have to paint over it, they didn't get mad at me.
Oh, wow.
I didn't get myself in trouble for doing that. And then, little by little, I drew. Nothing made me happier than a brand new box of Crayolas, especially the box of 48. So many, and which ones to choose, And of course, I would cry every time one would break. And I should say here that my mother was very artistic, and she had come to this country from Germany in 1938, and I think that date speaks for itself. Mm-hmm. And her education was interrupted. But she was always doing something creative, and she would either read something about something in the paper, or she would see somebody doing it and she would do it herself. And she did beautiful, beautiful things. She painted, she knitted. Later, she did ceramics, first from molds and then freeform and raku. And as she was doing those things, I was right behind her. She showed me, the basics of painting with oils, and she encouraged me up to a point. And that was just a very nice way to grow up. And my brother and I still have many of the things that she did. And her ceramics got so good. My father built her own kiln out of an old oil drum, and a neighbor who had moved down from New York saw my mother's work, and she said, I could sell this. And She took examples of my mother's work. She liked to press, wet clay into elephant ears, the
Oh,
plant,
yeah.
and made platters and then, cups, from a mold, to match. And she took some of those things to the hotel gift shops on Miami Beach, like the Fontainebleau and the Eden Rock, only the good hotels.
Yeah.
And her things were sold in the, in their gift shops. And she signed all her work, Lily in Miami. And that was long before Judy Chicago.
Hmm.
And she did a lot of things. And then, she would get tired of it and move on to something else. And you will see, in my artwork, there is an homage to a painting that she did of a hibiscus. And having come from Germany, she was very fascinated by the lush tropical foliage in Miami, and particularly hibiscus. And a family friend had this painting of hibiscus that fascinated my mother, and she copied it. And she painted many versions of it, framed them, and gave them as gifts to friends. And I'm sorry to say, we don't have a single one of them. She painted on taffeta, and the climate stained the fabric, and it didn't last forever. But when my mother turned 85 and her memory was starting to fail, for her birthday, as a tribute, I did my best to recreate that painting.
Oh.
And she thought she had done it, which to me was the biggest compliment anybody could pay me.
Oh, yes.
And the second biggest is that my brother, after my mother passed on, and we were dividing things, he wanted to keep it, and he has it.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah. So if I want one, I'm going to have to do it myself.
Do it again.
Yeah.
So do you feel like your mother was the instrumental in you pursuing some art in your life?
Absolutely. But when I went to college, and I should say here that I'm a proud graduate of North Miami Senior High. Go Pioneers! And from there, I went to Louisiana State University on a music scholarship. I played violin in high school and in junior high. When you had to choose your enrichment, art, music, whether it was orchestra, band, or chorus, journalism, those things were enrichments, and you had to choose. You couldn't have more than one. And I always chose music because I like the sense of belonging, and I like to play. I got a music scholarship to LSU, but the beauty of it was I didn't have to be a music major.
Oh.
And I decided to go for it, and I announced that I was going to be fine arts, studio art major. And I took, Fine Arts 101, and I was in with all these others who had been taking art all through junior and senior high school, and there I was starting out, from scratch. And I thought maybe I'd made a mistake. The professor was wonderful, and he was very encouraging. And at the conclusion of the course, he spoke to me and told me that I should apply to the summer program at Yale, the Yale School of Art and Architecture, of which he is a graduate. Well, that thrilled me no end. I told my parents, and they got so upset that they drove from Miami to Baton Rouge to tell me I couldn't do it.
Oh, no.
They didn't want me to do that. So I was a good girl, and I didn't give them any trouble,
Oh.
and I didn't do it. A decision I regret to this day.
Oh.
But I had a double major in English and history, and I thought, well, I will go have a career in academia, which would not have been bad. I could have painted on the side, and uh, and then came the Kennedy assassination,
Mm.
and of course that jolted everyone. And his words about ask not what you country can do for you, ask what you could do. Well, thinking about what am I going to do, I decided that a career in government service was a fine and noble calling.
Oh.
Well, those were different times. Those were different times. I still think it is. I still think it is. So I transferred to the School of International Service at American University, and I'm a proud graduate of that school. And as it got close to graduation, I was taking every test that every government service and agency was giving, hoping I would make it somewhere. And I can say this now, I couldn't then, but the best offer I got was from the Central Intelligence Agency,
Oh.
and that was exciting. And um, I had to, the application, as you might, the exam was very rigorous. It was even harder than the Foreign Service Officers exam. And the clearance process was lengthy. So I had to go home. I graduated a semester early, partly because they kept raising the tuition.
Oh.
That would do it. And so what I was home, and I couldn't sit around and do nothing. So I was reading the help wanted ads, and I answered an ad for TV Guide that was looking for an editor for its South Florida edition. And well, that would be in tune with my, pardon the expression, with my capabilities. And I had the interview with the publisher, and when it came to an end, he came after me in the hallway and said, we've had many applicants for this position, but you're one of the few that we will seriously consider. I did not get the job, but I got hired. I got a call for an interview from the promotions department at the ABC affiliate in Miami, asking me to please come in for an interview that I had been very highly recommended by the publisher of TV Guide. And so I was hired, and I had a career writing for television, which I enjoyed. They don't. I don't think they even do that anymore in TV today, where you do these voiceovers that promote programs and the personalities. And I enjoyed that very much too. But I wanted to be in the newsroom, and they said absolutely not. They didn't allow young women in the newsroom because it just wasn't seemly. I might see something that would upset me. I said, try me. And well, it wasn't going to work. And it didn't pay very well either. But that's how it is in these glamour jobs. If you're not happy, they've got 1,000 people out on the sidewalk who would love to have your job. And it was unusual to start in TV like that without starting at the switchboard, if you remember what a switchboard is.
Yes.
And but when my clearances came through, I kissed them all goodbye, and came up here.
Oh,
And, I really enjoyed my work very much. I won't say exactly what I did. It was partly what I was educated to do. And that was something because a lot of people wound up taking jobs that had nothing to do with what they'd studied in school.
hmm.
And then I met my husband.
Oh,
He was the boy next door. Um, Nina Totenberg was our matchmaker, but that's as much as I will say.
okay.
And and um, and all was well and good. We had our first child, a boy named Jordan, and um, and then my husband, whose name is Scott, he was an architect with the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Yes, I know, stone walls do not a prison make, nor iron bars a cage, but they don't have any sense of humor over there, or appreciation for poetry either.
Oh no.
Um, and and then they decided to regionalize the bureau, and so the South Central region was first up, and it was going to be headquartered in Dallas, Texas.
Hmm.
And so off we went. And I had meant that also meant I was on maternity leave at that time, and I was having to decide whether I was going to put Jordan in daycare, which I wasn't keen to do,
Hmm.
um, or resign. But being transferred to Texas, that settled the question. I had to resign, and because it's against all the regulations for the CIA to operate domestically.
Oh, I
So
see.
nobody is spying on you from there.
Yeah.
So so off we went to Dallas, and yes, I was terribly homesick, and I did not think we had reached the promised land. And Texas is a whole other country, and looking, but it was in Texas that I found some outlets for my creative, sensibilities.
Hmm.
Um, I took a course at SMU in their School of Continuing Education in calligraphy, which was something I had always wanted to do, and I took some other classes too, but it's the calligraphy that stands out. And uh, I started doing getting jobs as a freelance calligrapher.
Oh.
I found out there was money to be made, and I think I told you who some of my clients were. Um, Zales, for one, the Shell Oil Company
Wow.
was the major one. Uh, and I liked doing that, and it suited me because I could work around the baby's schedule, and because I wasn't keen to leave him with a babysitter either. Anyway, I've always had an interest in handwriting
Mhm.
ever since grade school when we learned to write with pen and ink, and there was something at extra to it. And I found out many years later where this interest and affinity came from, that my maternal grandfather and some of my maternal great aunts, they all had beautiful handwriting.
Oh.
And so I think there may be some genetic predisposition. But the biggest thing that I did while living in Texas was that I started business.
Oh.
And I had noticed from, in reading the Dallas Morning News, almost every week there was a feature story about some person who started a business, and how long that business lasted, I can't tell you, but they got a write-up in the paper, and uh, I found that especially interesting and encouraging. And I also noticed that in the grocery stores, which were very large stores, you could outfit an entire home office in the grocery store. You didn't have to go to an office supply.
Oh, okay.
What does that tell you? And and then I also should mention that my husband Scott is from Oklahoma, and he cooked. He is a very good cook, and he cooked chili. That was one of his specialties. Now, coming from South Florida, chili was something that we only had in cold weather in the school cafeteria, and it probably came out of a can.
Yep.
And so it was. So that was, a real experience for the taste buds to taste chili that was made from scratch. And it was delicious. And then I noticed on the front page of the Dallas Morning News, which was not the Washington Post. I had to subscribe to both newspapers. Dallas used to have two newspapers. In the afternoon, it was the Dallas Times-Herald. I had to subscribe to both papers just to keep up with the comics that I was accustomed to in the Washington Post.
Aww.
Now you know me for the intellectual that I am.
Oh.
Well, on the front page of the Washington Post, there was an article featuring one of the columnists, and his name was Frank Tolbert. And, he was a genuine character from the Old West. And he and Wick Fowler, whose name you might recognize from the brand of chili mix that you can find in the grocery store today, even here, and one other person whose name escapes me at the moment. The three of them started the World Championship chili cook-off in Terlingua, Texas. Now, Terlingua is, in very far west Texas, almost to the Mexican border. And it's desert out there, it's wasteland. And the reason they chose that spot was, they said, for the same reason that they had tests for the atomic bombs, in the deserts in New Mexico. And these cook-offs became a tradition once a year, usually in October. And I was intrigued by that. And of course, being a newcomer, and what did I know? I took it all at face value, and I thought, well, Scott's chili is really good. I'll bet he could win. And I started getting, and I didn't. This was before the internet and stuff. I don't know how I managed to find out information, but I did. And then it occurred to me, what this cook-off needed was a potholder, a commemorative potholder.
Oh.
And I worked it out in my mind before I ever set pencil to paper. And then I called one of the people, the three principals involved in the cook-off. He was the head of an ad agency in downtown Dallas. And he agreed to see me, which was very nice of him, because who am I, after all? Aww. And I did talk to Frank Tolbert also. I got him on the phone, and he didn't know what I was talking about. When I said potholder, he thought I meant a tripod that would hold a kettle.
Oh. Huh.
try explaining something like that, you know. So uh, I managed to get permission to go ahead and do my potholder and my design, and then I worked it up. But then the condition of my doing this was that I had to produce some that had their logo on it
Oh.
for the cook. They already had a logo. It was a black silhouette jackrabbit. You know, to me it looked rather Nazi-like on a bright yellow background. And so I said, okay, you know, and then I called the showroom that represents Now Designs, because I had a commemorative potholder that I bought at the National Zoo when Mohini the white tiger was the big star.
Oh.
Nobody remembers Mohini today, but I do.
Okay.
And it was beautifully made, and I wanted a quality piece. Well, I called the manufacturer's rep for Now Designs in the Dallas World Trade Center, spoke with the showroom manager, and she was very doubtful that they would do it. But she said, I will ask Don Collins, who was the president of Now Designs. And I was talking on the phone later that afternoon, I think to my mother or something, and the operator, you know, interrupted the call. You know, it's urgent, it's urgent. Oh my God, what happened? Well, she had the showroom manager on the line. She had talked to Don Collins. Turns out he's from one of the little towns that's in between Dallas and Fort Worth.
Oh.
He knew about the cook-off. He thought it was a great idea, and he agreed to produce a limited run as long as I paid in advance. You know.
Oh, okay.
So I said, well, sure. And that gave me my start. And this is the proof. This is not the finished product. The finished product is still packed away, and I can't access them right now. But so I overcame, and then I went to the Dallas Morning News with a potholder.
Oh.
And told them what I was going to do, and the reporter who interviewed me, at first I thought it was going nowhere, and then she said, come with me, walked me down the hall, and somebody took my picture, and I got an article with my picture in it in the newspaper, which was no small thing.
No, that's great.
And so all these obstacles overcome, but the one thing that I didn't foresee, this event that had been going on for many, many years and was practiced in an institution, it never occurred to me that the cook-off itself that year would fizzle. And that was because if you're very wealthy in Texas, you own your own ghost town. And Terlingua was a ghost town.
Oh.
And so the three guys, the ad agency guy, and a lawyer, and Frank Talbert, they owned the town, and they were worried about there being trouble and stuff, and that word got out, and so the one thing we didn't foresee, so what the owners did was they sold the ghost town to someone, and he was going to make sure there would be law and order. And word got out that there was going to be plenty of law and order. There were, shall we say, representatives from 5 different law enforcement branches, including the Border Patrol.
Oh.
And word got out, and people go to this cook-off for the same reason they go to rock concerts, to eat chili, drink beer, and have a good time. And if you cook a pot of chili, that's more almost incidental. And so a lot of people stayed away because they were afraid there was going to be trouble. We rented a motorhome. We drove down there. We had a good time, actually. And it was certainly, I thought we were going to fall off the edge of the earth. I'd never been that far west. And I didn't sell very many potholders because the people that came, they were all nice people, I assure you. They were more interested in buying, another 6-pack of beer.
Okay.
Yeah. But I did sell some, and I'm pleased to tell you that mine outsold, the jackrabbit.
There you go.
So anyhow, we came back with a lot of potholders. What am I going to do with them? Well, that year, I sent my friends back east 6 earthenware bowls, a package of my chili mix of Wick Fowler's chili mix, because on the back of the package it talks about chili wood, and my potholder.
Oh, okay.
And people were happy to get it. I was going to go to the Wick Fowler people and see if we could make a deal to use their chili mix in the kit. And my partner said, "Hell no, we'll make our own." I said, "Fine, you do that." Well, he didn't. I did. And I did a lot of research. I spent a lot of time in the kitchen, and I started out, with a plain foil bag and a red and white pressure sensitive label. You have to be careful. Now ask me what I know about business. I like to say that I got my MBA in the School of Hard Knocks. School colors are black and blue. But I knew that, you have to go in increments. You can't go all out. And but then I reached a point where, as I got the same showroom that carried Now Designs, I showed them the chili kit. They agreed to represent me.
Oh, okay.
And and as the chili kits started to sell and people got them and they tasted the chili that was in the package, this was before the internet, mind you. People started writing me letters.
Oh, okay.
I am amazed at that. I mean, even then, who writes letters? And I got some very nice ones, and they came from all kinds of places like you wouldn't expect, and well beyond Texas, like the American Embassy in Moscow, and
wow,
and all places, in the United States and Europe and even from Japan. I didn't have any more of these potholders anymore.
Oh.
And Now Designs made a round pothole that it was red and white checkered. And that matches the logo for Ralston Purina.
Oh, right. Okay.
And somehow my chili kit came to their attention, and they decided to do a special feature. They like to put coupons in the bags of of their dog chow, and they and because that red and white potholder matched their logo, that was a good, a good match.
Oh, okay.
And the blue enamelware was a beautiful shade of almost azure blue, and it had a 4-quart kettle, a lid, 4 spoons, 4 bowls, a ladle, package of the chili mix, and a potholder.
Okay.
And Well, the bottom line is that they expected to sell maybe 2,000 kits over the course of the promotion. They sold over 5,000.
Wow. Wow.
It was a success. And then as people got the kits and tried the chili, they wrote letters. How can we buy more? And then I had to think of a way because I had no intention of, of competing with the grocery store products or with anybody else for that matter. And that just kind of happened. And I'm going to end this right now to tell you that here are the three. I had three products in the. Can you see it?
Yes. Yeah, I can now. Yeah. There we go.
Okay. Red, white, and blue. And the Texas national colors, the colors of the United States, and one of the Ralston Purina promotion was one of the big things that happened. But the biggest thing that happened was by that point we had moved back east. And how can you run a business called Real Texas, from McLean, Virginia? But I did it. I just added on my letter. The stuff was still made in Texas and shipped here. But I just added on my letterhead and brochures imported from the Republic of Texas.
Oh.
And I didn't have any qualms about that because the product was still made in Texas. It wasn't being made, here.
Right.
Virginians may be known for many things, but not chili. And Minuteman Press and McLean did all my business printing, and I had done a new recipe folder, and it had come out. Well, they were pleased with it, and they pinned it on their bulletin board, behind the cashier. And this was at the time of the inauguration of the first President Bush. And somebody from the inaugural committee came into Minuteman Press and saw it, and they liked what they saw, and they said, "Who does this, and how can we get in touch with them?" Because they were assembling the inaugural catalog, and the Bushes are really from Connecticut, but they became naturalized Texans. And so the people at Minuteman Press gave them my contact information. And next thing I know is that my seasoning mixes were chosen to represent the first President Bush's Texas lifestyle.
Wow.
And it was also the bicentennial of the American presidency. This was as good an example as I could ever hope to have of being in the right place at the right time with the right stuff.
Absolutely. Wow. That's great.
And it made me feel a special connection with my maternal grandfather, who was very artistic and entrepreneurial, except his thing was hosiery. And he had moved the whole family from Budapest to Chemnitz, Germany, when Chemnitz was the center of the German textile industry. And he was working in a small dry goods shop. If you've ever seen the shop around the corner, that's the basic story right there. And there was a competition for the Hungarian National Day among all the shops, and there would be a prize for the best decorated window. Well, my grandfather took some hosiery and dyed them in the Hungarian national colors, red, green, and white, and arranged them artistically in the shop window. And somehow that story always resonated with me. And then my younger son, Justin, said, Well, you did the same thing, Mom,
Oh,
with the red, white, and blue here. And I had never made that connection, but it makes me feel good to think of it.
that's true. That really came full circle. That's true.
Yeah. In addition, I kept the business going until I think 2001, and then I sold it to a big enterprise in Texas,
Hmm.
in Marshall, Texas, and the the only the barbecue sauce is no longer being made, but the chili and the gumbo are.
Oh,
And so if you go to Amazon and type in real Texas chili, you will find it. And I am very pleased in a way that after 40 years, it's still on the market, because most little companies don't last but a season or two.
that's
So I am proud of that. And the inaugural committee, asked me for product samples for the first present, which is presidential library. So I'm proud of that too. And
mm,
if I ever get to College Station, I want to go see.
that'd be great. Yes.
And then here, and then once I was free of the business and I still had two children, I did things for their schools um, and for the organizations that I belong to. I did flyers and designed logos and things like that. And one graphic design project that I did was for Milo's Grill here in McLean.
Oh, yes.
The owners were very kind to my German language study group, and I was just looking at the way they had their restaurant name, and it occurred to me it could be tweaked a bit,
Oh,
and so I did it. And then I prepared it like I was showing it to a client, and they were surprised and they liked it. And if you go to Milo's, you'll see it on everything.
no.
That's very heavy. And I did some T-shirt designs for a friend,
Mhm.
and which you'll see. Um, and um, I don't know what else there is,
Oh,
but my husband and I took a colored pencil class at the Torpedo Factory, and then eventually when we moved here, um, you know, I saw the art room right off, but I can now take time out to come on Wednesdays, and these 2 hours spent in here are like it's like being in an oasis.
oh,
And Wednesday's my favorite day of the week,
oh,
and I really look forward to it. When you are engaged in painting or working in pencil, you can't think about anything else.
no, that is true. That's true. I thought maybe we could take the time now to actually look at some of your paintings and drawings and things like that. So, all right. So, here's some of the work that you've agreed to share with us so kindly. And I'd love to hear about the shoes.
Okay. Well, when I was a very little girl, um, my mother took me with her, probably because she couldn't get a babysitter, to see the ballet movie, The Red Shoes. Now, what little girl doesn't dream of being a ballerina? And all that I really remember from that movie was the red shoes. And when I had the opportunity to paint, I decided to do a painting of the red shoes as I remembered it from the movie. Now I was probably about 4 or 5 years old when I saw the movie, and
Mhm.
I was 12 when I did this.
Wow.
And in the intervening years, I had not seen the movie since. And if I had seen it, it would have been on television and it would have been black and white. So was from memory. And
Oh,
I'd never seen a real pair of toe slippers up close either.
oh.
And so, I just, and why I still have it after all these years, I don't know that it hasn't gotten lost.
I think it's wonderful that you do. That's great. It's so nice to see somebody's really early work from when they were a child. That's a rarity to keep. I don't know where my stuff is, but I'm glad you have these. Great. Okay, then we have this one.
Okay, now this is an orchid, the orchid in an orchid corsage I received when I was, I guess it was my junior year at American University. Um, I had a date who took me to see My Fair Lady, which was a very big deal, and it was playing only at the Warner Theater, which is practically like an opera house, And uh, and much to my astonishment, he brought me an orchid corsage,
Wow.
and I had never had an orchid or a corsage before. So I was really thrilled, and I wanted to immortalize it. And I painted it, and I did this in my dorm room.
Wow.
And my mother took it and had it framed.
Oh.
Okay, well, this is colored pencil, and this was done in a colored pencil course that my husband and I took at the Torpedo Factory with Pat Barron, who was very well known in colored pencil circles in the Washington area. And this is drawn from a photograph I took while I was home visiting. We we took my mother and I, we took the boys out to the Miccosukee Indian Village, which is a tourist attraction, and they among the things that you could see do there, they had alligator wrestling, which
Oh,
I don't know if the people for the ethical treatment of animals still allow that or not.
I don't know.
I don't know, but uh, I happened, this caught my eye. There was there was a wooden fence, and along the fence there were hibiscus growing, and
Hmm.
this cluster of three, and I have the photograph that I could show you another time. Um, Caught my eye, and I thought that was a good arrangement,
Oh, yes.
and I decided to do that, and well, and I like drawing hibiscus, and I especially like doing leaves.
Oh, it's beautiful. The dappling and the variegated leaf pattern. Yes, really lovely.
Thank you.
So we have this image.
Okay, well, this is done, as an homage to my mother. Um, a family friend had the original, um, which I think was done in, some form of tempera. Um, and she was just fascinated, first of all, by the hibiscus and the arrangement and, the picture itself. And she copied it. And then she painted it, oh, tens, I wouldn't say 100 times, but many, many times.
Mhm.
And she painted them mostly on taffeta. And, eventually the taffeta got climate stains. So there's not one around anymore. So when my mother turned 85 and we had a little party for her, and at that age, she certainly didn't need anything more. but I thought I would recreate, this picture. And this friend's daughter and son-in-law have the original, and I got them to take a picture of it and send it to me, and I worked from that.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And um, and then we had it framed, and I presented that to my mother, at her little birthday party we gave her, and she thought it was one of hers, and
Oh,
that was such a big compliment, to me, that she thought that. And I think it confused her a little bit that she hadn't.
oh,
But I mean, this is an image that I grew up with, and to this day, I love hibiscus better than any other flower, even orchids. That is a study that was done in Pat Barron's colored pencil class,
okay.
and you'll notice the flamingo.
I like that one. That makes it. I love the flamingo.
Yeah, bought in one of the shops in the Miami airport.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It works perfectly.
Well, if you have I like to think I have a good eye, and sometimes even kitsch can be beautiful. That was also a study, and I think the point of this one was texture.
Hmm.
You know how long it took me to do that mat?
I was going to say that it looks like burlap or something, some kind of
No,
a
it's straw that
straw.
woven.
Wow. How long did it take you?
Days and days and days and days, and then a few more days.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That is amazing. I bet on surface people would think, oh, you drew it on a piece of paper that had that imprinted on it, but to know you hand did each little texture, incredible.
This is taken at Fairchild Tropical Botanic Gardens
Hmm.
in Miami, and you know Dale Chihuly and Fairchild have discovered each other, and they have a big show almost every year now, and people come in droves, and you have to pay to get in. So it's a good fundraising mechanism for the gardens. And I'm not that big a fan of Chihuly's, and that's all right. He probably doesn't like me either, um, but I was intrigued with this boat and the way all these glass balloons were piled in there. That I thought was beautiful, and um, and the picture that I took of it came out, if I may say so, really well.
Mhm.
And I had it printed on, instead of on paper, I had it printed on canvas and then stretched like you would
Oh,
a painting.
right.
And the water in the foreground, when you look at it,
Mhm.
it looks like watercolor or something.
Hmm.
It doesn't look like a photograph.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, and they had pieces of his, all over the garden, stuck in with the plants and stuff.
Hmm.
And my personal feeling is that, the plants and foliage have their own beauty and they don't need anything else. But if it makes money for the garden and helps them, stay afloat, I'm all for it.
Oh, that makes sense. Then we have, I believe this is your most recent work.
Yeah. This is my first attempt at painting with acrylics,
I,
and this is uh, I call this long ago and far away along the shores of Biscayne Bay.
hmm.
This is based on a photograph I took on a drive across the Rickenbacker Causeway, um, to Key Biscayne, and it doesn't show in this painting, but it was getting close to sunset, and there is a golden aura that I don't really include in this painting. I'm not that good yet. I'm going to
Oh,
try again. But
well,
I liked it.
I like this painting. I love the palm fronds. I feel they're so
Yeah.
airy and like it's glowing. It has a very tropical vibe to it.
Well, thank you. I did this a few weeks ago at the first paint and sip activity they had here,
Yes.
and I was told that the theme was the beach. And I said, "Well, I'm a Florida girl. I know about beaches." And
Right.
I remembered I had this photograph that I had taken, and thinking that someday I would do something with it. And and I was able to find it.
That's perfect.
So and the palm fronds just came straight out of my brush.
You're a natural with those, I believe. I really, it's just,
I can't explain it, and I don't know if I could do it again.
oh, I bet you can. So now we're going to move to something we haven't really done before is some of the graphic design pieces that you have.
I did this for a friend of mine who has a standing date every morning to walk with a friend. You know, they go out every day for exercise, and her name is Rochelle. Her friend's name is Lois. That's where the low comes from.
Got it. Okay.
And she asked me if I could design a T-shirt for them to wear, and I said, "Let me think on it." And what I came up with was using an image uh, from, well, let me explain, uh, from the ample. Uh, um, in Germany, there are figures in the traffic lights. Uh, there's one of a man, and eventually it started out with him, and he's called the Ampel man.
Oh,
Ampel is the German word for traffic light. And eventually this Ampel man had a wife and children.
oh,
And this is this figure is their daughter.
oh, okay.
And so I thought that would be kind of, because they're walking like that, I thought that would be a good image to put on the T-shirt. And I gave them a name, the Arlington Amblers.
Oh, great name.
Yeah. And red is Rochelle's favorite color. And there is a custom T-shirt place in Merrifield called Custom Ink,
Hmm.
and she took it there, and they produced the shirts,
Oh,
and uh, and they were so pleased with it that they used it. Custom Ink used it in some of their advertising as an example of what somebody could do. And
oh,
then she also belongs to a swim group that meets at the McLean, the pool here in McLean,
mhm.
and they're called the Water Babes.
And that would be this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they meet at Spring Hill. So well, that was easy to settle on aqua blue as a color, and then I found this image. It's by Jessie Wilcox Smith, who so beautifully illustrated Heidi and Little Women.
Mm.
And I don't even know what this is from, but it seemed appropriate.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
And then Rochelle kindly gave me you know a T-shirt of each thing.
Oh, that's,
I only wear them on special occasions.
oh. All right. And now we go to some of the things you were talking about earlier with the the work you did.
calligraphy, yeah. One of my first clients was the Shell Oil Company, and I worked for them, until, for several years until we moved back here.
Oh, okay.
And it was through the connection to Shell that I think there's the place card with Roger Staubach's name on it, and it was through my contacts at Shell that I was asked to do the place cards for a dinner that they were having for the Texas chapter of the National Football League.
Oh.
And when I saw Roger Staubach's name, and I knew I'm not a sports fan, but everybody in Dallas knows who Roger Staubach is, and I asked if they could please get him to autograph it for me, and they did.
Oh, that's great. Then we have this one.
That's the newspaper article that I talked my way into.
Oh, okay. And that's you, right? As an early.
That's me.
Oh.
I hardly recognize myself.
Oh goodness, hot heads to get chili hot pads.
Yeah.
I like their headline. That's good. All right, then we have this.
Okay, well, this is from. This is one of the highlights of what I refer to as the chili business. Being selected to represent the first president, which is Texas Lifestyle, in the inaugural catalog, and the fact that it was a woman-owned business was a plus.
Oh,
even then,
Okay, we have this one.
Well, that's one of the flyers or brochures that I did for them. See, I did all my own work.
So you designed this too, the
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay.
And wrote the copy, and that was for Zale.
Oh right,
as you can see.
Yes. Okay. And then lastly, we have what everyone will recognize locally. Yay!
Milo's.
This was the logo that you redid for them then, right?
Well, I tweaked it.
Okay.
I tweaked it. I added the olive sprig at the Alden Theater, and they had a full page ad in the program, and I looked at it, and well, I don't want to sound immodest, but I thought I could do better, and I redid it, and then I showed it to them, and I haven't been to the Alden Theater lately, so I don't know if they're still using it or not.
Thank you, Sharon, for sharing all of that work from such a diverse style of different art formats. Well,
thank you very much for asking me. It was really quite an adventure for me. I hadn't realized that I had so much, and there's actually more that it's in the storage locker over at Seven Corners, and if I ever get out from under, I'll show. I have other things I could show you.
Oh, I'm sure
if you're interested.
Absolutely, yes. Oh,
so but I thank you very much. And this was so nice. And I wish my mother and father could know, but maybe they do.
I think they do. I'll go with that. I agree. And I'm glad you're a part of our art community. So
thank you. Well, this is the best part of it for me.
Oh, well, You're a part of our group, and every Wednesday is made a little more special with you coming down to join us. So,
Oh, well, you're very kind to say that, and I return the feelings.
oh, thanks
So,
again, Sharon. Thank you.
oh, my very great pleasure.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for agreeing to be this week's featured artist and giving us a chance to get to know you better, experience your interests in art, and some of the journeys your life has taken you. I appreciate all of the work that you shared with us, and everyone will get a chance to see that again in the slideshow that follows. Thank you again, Vincent Hall, for tuning in. Next week, we'll have another episode of our featured artist series. Until then, we're down in the Art Center every Tuesday and Wednesday, and if you come Wednesday at noon, you'll catch Sharon doing her latest creation. In the meantime, stay safe and be well, Vincent Hall.